Welcome to my channel. This is Spirit Soul Sense, information for your soul. The title might not feel solely, but everything I do is really about improving yourself. So I've said on my channel quite frequently that I'm not an anti-capitalist, right? I am not a person who wants to do away with capitalism. I believe that the United States is the greatest country in the world. Might be up for, debate and opinion. It's just an opinion, okay? But I read this book called Animal Farm, written by George Orwell. That's his name, right? He writes like futuristic, kind of trippy things. And I thought it was great commentary for communism or socialism. Communism and socialism are like related, on the spectrum of political ideologies. Communism is probably the most extreme. Think China, Cuba. The United States is a capitalist country. We're private ownership is kind of what we push. Communism, it's like, no, you don't own nothing. Individuals don't own nothing. It's like it belongs to everybody. I think if you go and you talk to the people in those countries, you will get good information. If you see what it really is like for people living in China and for people living in Cuba, you might get a good idea about why more countries are not communist. So people talk about socialism a lot, democratic socialism a lot. I am not an economist. I'm not a politician. I'm not a professor of politics or anything like that. So I'm not here to give you the definition. I believe these things are very, very complex, and the way that they're broken down in the media is not the best. Yeah, it's not the best for the lay consumer. Not the best. So I definitely don't believe socialism in the true form of socialism is ever going to exist in the United States. We already have what they call social safety nets, like the welfare system, like unemployment, like the food stamps. We already have certain things in place for people. Like there are people right now, who I was working with, who are being paid disability checks, just not working. And not everyone who's on disability actually has a disability. So there's people who believe that getting $600 a month is worth not working. That's a whole different video. But my point is, the book Animal Farm, I think, highlighted what I say all the time. Listen, in theory, right? Theory is a set of beliefs put together. There's not all the data on it to make it a fact, but we've organized these set of principles, and we've created this construct, this concept, and here is the theory. And so communism in theory sounds beautiful, right? Karl Marx, right, is who people look to when they're describing communism. Karl Marx, and listen, I remember so vividly reading in my textbook, I think I was taking a sociology class, and saying, when you're young, it's natural to idolize Karl Marx. It's natural to believe that, oh my goodness, one day we could be a utopia, like we could all be equal. There could be no class. There's no class. Why even there's no class? We're all equal. It's reasonable, I think, in youth to think that's doable. But once you start living, once you become an adult, once you realize what people are really like, then you think, wait, we have missed an element. There's a factor that we're not considering when we talk about socialism and communism, and that is the human ego. So in Animal Farm, the animals wanted to rebel against the humans, and then they decided, okay, we are equal. All the animals are equal. We will never side with humans. We've driven them out. We are equal. All the animals are equal. But as we see in real life here, right? Because I know what the average IQ is. Our IQ falls, as in the human race, falls in a bell curve. So at one end, we have like people with really, really extremely low IQs. And at another end, we have people with extremely high IQs. And in the middle, you have a distribution of like what's average. But we have high average, we have low average. So already I know we're not the same, right? Every life is equally important. but we're not the same. And would I want to save Albert Einstein's life more so than the man who's contributed nothing? Come on. I mean, just being reasonable. I'm not asking you to kill anybody, right? I'm just saying, can we acknowledge that there are actual differences between people and that some people have more to give to the world than other people? Not that anybody has to die. But socialism and communism, in theory, do not account for the fact that people are imperfect. And once they get into positions of power, it is like a psychedelic. Listen, power and money, once you get it, you're like, ooh, I have to hold on to this. I want to keep this. If you are not actively working against the ego, right? If you are not actively watching my videos and figuring out how to become a better version of yourself, how do I stop, acting from triggers? How do I heal from past traumas? Like, we've all been through something. And let me tell you, a lot of people who are interested in becoming a politician are doing it based on ego. I'm exactly the kind of person who would make a fantastic politician. I'd be great. You know why? Because I have fantastic integrity. Because I cannot be moved by people's feelings. Because I've been to therapy. Because I've done my work. So what you do or say is not going to trigger me. I am going to work for the people. Right? Honestly. But people like me, they run out of the system. Because there are so many people in the system who are working from ego. Who have a taste of power and want to keep it. Did y'all watch the movie Don't Look Up? A mess. People are a mess. And I want you to think about the people we have in leadership. At least half of them, if not more, are doing this based on ego. They might think they're helping people, but they're doing it based on ego. Which is why capitalism is what I think is the best. I think capitalism has had the best outcomes for countries. Like I said, I think America is the greatest country in the world. I think that is why there are always so many people wanting to move here. And then when you look across the world and you look at places that people are fleeing and where are they fleeing to, think about what those countries are like. What do they have that are grasping those people? Because it's not socialism. People are not being drawn to socialist countries. And I think people like to talk about, what's that country? Not New Zealand. What is the country? Sweden. People like to cite Sweden as being a socialist country. Sweden is not a socialist country. They will tell you themselves they're not a socialist country. Do they have social safety net, socialist policies? Yeah, but they're not a socialist country. What Sweden also has that people don't talk about is all the same race. Do you understand what it means to live in a country that has not been touched by slavery? Not been touched by the effects of race? If 90-something of your people look the same, they're going to find something different to fight over. But think, like, the United States was built on racism, built on slavery. So we also have those lingering effects. It just feels like people are comparing apples to oranges when they're thinking about this. But the Animal Farm book, I think, was great for acknowledging that you think you're going to do all this great stuff. The people right now talking about democratic socialism in the United States, you think you're going to be doing all this great stuff. You've made a career, a 30-year plus career out of being a politician. You've done some things for your people, but most of everything is still the same, okay? Most of everything is still the same. And capitalism rewards people for their creativity, for their innovation, which also leads to it being one of the most profitable countries. The United States is one of the most profitable, it's the most profitable country. But the pandemic has changed some things such that China and Russia are wanting to become sort of superpowers in the system. In my opinion, the way I view the world is that we are always progressing. We might take a couple steps backward, but we're always progressing. And so what Russia is doing, what China is doing, I don't view it as sustainable. I think it's part of the process that we have here in Earth School for countries to be trying different things, doing different things. But this controlling their people, like, look at what happened in Hong Kong. People are actively saying they want democracy. Actively saying they want democracy. And then how long is this thing in Russia going to last? Like, is that really what y'all want? I really don't know all the details about Russia. I know what the people in power want us to believe, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I just definitely don't believe everything that the media tells me. Okay? Definitely don't believe everything. They're gonna figure it out because I have energy for what's happening in my world, in my life. We'll see how it plays out. But I like capitalism because it actually allows people to move up the class ladder. And there are research studies out there right now who say it's like 16% chance that you'll move up the class ladder. But what they don't do is compare that to other countries, right? So when Americans travel outside of this country and they go look at, beautiful, beautiful other countries, what some might call third world countries, you realize that the possibilities that you can achieve something in America is the chance of you doing that in America is so much higher than in other countries where they have like very rigid class structures and the people on the bottom do not move, cannot move. So if you talk to me about, if I'm poor, grew up poor, and I'm going to stay poor, okay, United States, very likely, right? Of generations of poor people. Other countries, highly likely, generations of poor people. But the one country where you actually might have a chance if you create something, if you do things in a certain way, I'm also going to review the science of getting rich. If you do something in a certain way, the possibilities are endless. It is very, very difficult to be innovative in a country that doesn't reward innovation or creativity. The United States actively does that. And this is not, I kind of sound like a USA spokesperson. I didn't even grow up in the States, right? I didn't grow up in the States, but I am literally living the American dream. What's the American dream? Because I don't have a house. To me, the American dream is being able to do what I want. Being able to go to school, to get a job that I want, have some freedom, have some fun. So, immigrants who come, I'm not technically an immigrant. I was born a U.S. citizen, but I come from a tiny island. And to people who grew up in places where there are not a lot of options, not a lot of resources, not a lot of opportunities, coming to the United States is like one of the best things in the world. Going to a big country that has like a capitalism structure where you can go up if you do things in a certain way is like joy. It's like joy. And so being able to come here, because I'm smart, come here, go to the university, get the degree, get the job that I want. I didn't just do this stuff but it's what I wanted to do. Capitalism has allowed me the opportunity to do that. And I'm grateful. I'm really grateful. So my point is, I want you to become the best person that you can be. Never forget the human elements, the ego part of being human in anything that you do. You need to acknowledge and understand that any industry you go to, you are going to have different levels of people who are identified with ego. People who are just fear-based and doing things just because, doing things for the power, doing things to get one up on, doing things out of competition with other people versus harmony with other people. It's just a fact of life. It is. We are all different souls at different degrees of evolution. I'm an old soul, so I get things. I came into this world a little bit different. They are still baby souls. Baby souls who are still trying to figure it out, still, having to go through all these challenges and tests, and maybe they get it in this lifetime, maybe they don't. But what I'm tired of is people making socialism sound like it's going to be the savior of the people. Just like thinking that all women leaders is going to be the savior of these people. Yes, we need more women leaders, but we will always have conflict, and eventually I think it'll dissipate and we'll all be enlightened souls on this planet, and then it'll end. But that's, I think, like another billion years from now or something. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Remember to like, subscribe, share this video with someone you think it may help, and thank you for watching.